So how do we grow our audience? I think the first question should be, what do we know about our current audience? We're going to talk a little bit about the audience that we have now before we get into how we're going to do this project to reach potentially a new audience. We need to, if we are trying to improve our reach or engagement strategy, we want to know where we're coming from. So what do we know about our current audience? We're going to cover some basics. I would encourage you, again, you don't need to pull information on all of these things, but it might be a good idea to think about, relative to the project that you're going to be working on, what do I know about my current audience? That could mean looking at a historical analysis of maybe your website audience in terms of the people who visit. Where do they come from? How many of them are there over time, etc. You could do a historic analysis of content, actual stories, actual topics that people engage with. You might want to do a historic analysis of a product or platform. That's where we kind of get into more newsletters or Facebook or Twitter or the places that we engage with people that aren't necessarily directly on our website. You might also think about doing a historic revenue analysis. Maybe it's in DFP if you use that for serving ads, or we use Salesforce for a lot of our revenue data. Whatever the case may be, you're coming from a lot of different places and you may have more or less access to any of these types, but we're going to talk a little bit about drilling down into particular metrics for each of these that are going to help you get a handle on asking questions to figure out who is your audience now. So when we're talking about people, we definitely want to know the composition of our audience from a demographic standpoint, age, gender, geography. How do we do that? You can look at your website analytics. We use Google Analytics. You can find there that they have a lot of estimated demographic information. What they don't have, for good reason, is race demographics. If you want to get at that, and also to be able to get a little bit more information than you can get from some of these analytics sources. Surveys are a really good tool. We use those. We do an annual survey that's sort of a more in-depth survey where we ask people about their demographics, their content consumption, their opinions about our website and products, their civic engagement. Those are the kinds of things that are relative to our mission as a politics and policy news site. We also ask them more frequently. At the end of every event, we send out a survey so that we have a good idea of who's coming to our events. One of the main questions that we ask, there are certain questions that we ask across all of our surveys to be consistent so that over time we get a better sense of who our audience is in terms of their interest in politics and policy. The one question we started asking was, are you subscribing or reading the Texas Tribune for personal reasons or professional reasons? When I first got to the Texas Tribune, there were a lot of questions about, okay, are we serving an insider audience? The Tribune started in 2009 after the recession, the financial crisis, and it was really meant to be a solution for the declining state house coverage in the state. And we started here in Austin, really serving as a news organization that could fill the gap on Capitol coverage. By virtue of that, we quickly grew as a resource for a lot of Capitol insiders and folks who are in the business of politics and policy. Fast forward, when I started at the Tribune in 2016, there were a lot of questions about, okay, we know we've got a lock on the Capitol audience and the people who are geeked out about politics and policy, but what about the people who are more personally interested in these issues? So we started asking that question on every survey that we did. And it's interesting actually to see how much people are really telling us that they are reading us not just for professional reasons, they're reading us for personal reasons. You can also, as I said, get a lot more feedback, a lot more nuanced feedback than you're ever going to get out of Google Analytics or Omniture or any of these analytics platforms about why it is that people are consuming your content, or what they think about this product or that. When it comes to content, these are all super basic, but we're going to review them in any case, because this is really good information for you to think about pulling if you can get your hands on it about your current audience. Obviously, in terms of consumption, page views, unique visitors, pages per visit, how much are people consuming when they get to your site, the types of traffic, sources of traffic, device types, and reader behavior. For example, the kinds of questions that you can answer just looking at traditional web analytics are, how many people are visiting from these different channels? Typical channels being search, social, direct, referral, and email. This is a look actually at the Tribune's traffic makeup from last year. We get quite a lot of traffic from search. We really are aggressive about optimizing for search, and we have a lot of databases also that draw a lot of search traffic. Social traffic, I think, is self-explanatory. All of the traffic that comes from the platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, etc. Direct traffic is an interesting category. Direct traffic means typed or bookmarked. That's the typical explanation. It's someone who is coming straight to your site. But what does it mean when you get direct traffic to a URL that is, 100 characters long or whatever the case may be? It's very unlikely that someone is directly typing that into their browser. Well, a lot of direct traffic right now is also traffic that we frankly don't have any good tracking on in any other means. It might be traffic that should be attributed to social or should be attributed to referral being traffic from other websites. But because it's not tagged properly, it's just going into this direct traffic. So if you ever hear the word dark social, a lot of times it might show up in the direct traffic channel, and that is traffic that is coming from people who are sharing those long links either in their instant messaging services or via text message or via personal email, or increasingly now, and I think we've noticed this a lot, right, with the emergence of all of these closed chat networks and closed Facebook groups. There's going to be a lot more of that kind of untagged traffic that we're going to have a harder time accounting for. Also, as our social producer, Bobby Blanchard, have to give him a little shout out here, would remind you that the Reddit mobile app also sends a lot of dark social traffic over that winds up showing up in that direct bucket. So that's kind of a murky bucket, but in any case, it is what it is. And then email traffic, that's traffic from your own newsletters, traffic from other people's newsletters to your site. So you can answer this kind of question: how many people are visiting? You can also get a sense for how many people are actually coming back. This is the ratio of new sessions to repeat sessions. And you can see that we get a lot more repeat traffic from search and social. How much are they consuming? Again, this is, how much time or how much content are people actually reading? Are they coming and quickly leaving, or are they digging in and looking for more? This is possibly also a reflection of the fact that a lot of our search traffic comes to sort of our data explorers. And when people are coming to the data explorers, they're typically looking for content so that they're taking a few clicks to find what it is that they're looking for. So not surprised to see that you get so many page views per visit for search. But if you look at other kind of factors, for instance, how many people are visiting relative to how many people are donating. So for us, donations are a big conversion metric. Email is a really big converter for us. So is social, not to the extent that email is relative to our traffic. But again, by looking at this, you can get a sense for sort of what is the makeup of your overall audience, but also what is the value of those different audiences, right? Like, not every audience is the same. Maybe you have a lot of external referral traffic, but if your whole objective is to get people to sign up for newsletters or donate, and nobody from those channels are doing either of those things, you might want to reassess, okay, well, which channels are better at getting people to do those things, and how can I improve conversions there? So when you want to gather baseline data, which I would encourage you all to do, think about those metrics and what you can pull for the same time frame. So in my example, I just pulled from January of last year through December of last year to get a sense for how, what the traffic and what the audience looked like over time. You can pull total traffic per week or per month, because then you can start to slice that data by, visits over time, traffic per source, per device, content per source per device, engagement per source and device, and which sources or pages are doing a good job at actually converting or getting people into the engaged channels that you're hoping for them to get into. Same thing goes for platforms. You can also download platform data to get a sense for the overall demographic makeup of those audiences, but also how they consume over time, how they're engaging with your content. So for example, for Facebook, you can download the demographics of your Facebook page. You can download the post data to find out, which posts have the most reach and the lowest reach, and what percentage of people on your page are actually engaging with your content. How do you get all of that data? Okay, so we're going to off-ramp here just a little bit because we're not getting into the hard data analysis, but I would encourage you to go and see what you can find, either that your newsroom already keeps or that you can go and download and investigate for yourself. One resource that I have for this class that is useful along these lines, and you can find this in the course help links, is this basically this database of audience production and measurement tools. It started out actually when I taught this course as just a social media course. As many of you know, there's a million zillion social analytics tools out there. So this started as a database I crowdsourced for those kinds of tools, like how do I keep track of tweet hashtags, or how do I download Instagram data, whatever the case may be. And so I've added some more basic web analytics and search analytics and other kinds of tools to this database. I am also going to be sharing the link to another survey. Don't feel like you have to do this, but if you do have a good tool that you would like to share with our class and keep this database going, I'll be sharing a link to this extra survey. You can tell me about it and we'll update the big table. But if you're looking for places that you can download some of this data, if you don't already have it handy, this is a good resource for you. The other thing, just to kind of visualize what I was talking about with like getting your baseline data, this is how we track it at the Texas Tribune. And you'll notice that this is over time, right, month over month. And I have all of our KPIs. Those are key performance indicators. I really simplified them in that audience funnel for you for uniques and engaged users and members. Those are the big picture numbers that we're looking at, but obviously there are many other kind of numbers that we're keeping track of that relate to each of those metrics. And so we have our monthly board dashboard that we keep here, where we just sort of keep track of these numbers month over month. The top section is all of the reach numbers. That's where we count our web analytics, our social audience. Those are sort of people at the top of the funnel where we consider those readers, but also opportunities for deeper relationships. The second part of this document is all of our engagement metrics, newsletter subscribers being the most important one for us right now, seeing how those things are doing over time, our podcast subscriptions, any kind of web engagement around commenting or time on site, those kinds of things. And then finally, our last section here is loyalty. So that's the bottom of the funnel. Those are people who are subscribing to our paid newsletter, who are donating, and you can, and Google Docs, this is basically a quick and dirty way of getting the most important metrics in one document. Chartbeat, Parse.ly, all of these things are really great, but from a strategic standpoint, it was important for me to organize our metrics against our goals and our funnel, and looking at things over time in an at-a-glance way, like how are we doing year over year and month over month. So this is a look, when I was talking to you about how to gather baseline data over time, this is a much more visual way of looking at what I was trying to talk about. But Earlier I was showing you what is the total balance of traffic that comes from these different sources, direct versus email versus social. Well, it's also really instructive to see this over time, right? One of the things, again, that we've been working on a lot at the Texas Tribune is our email products. We don't think about our email products primarily as vehicles for click-throughs. We really want them to be self-contained products that people feel like they can consume in email and feel satisfied by, but that is valuable traffic for us that we hope to build over the long term. And it's good to see, if you look at, this is month over month from January of 2017 to date. This is how our overall traffic has trended, you can see in the gray bars, and then this is sort of how each of the channels have performed over that same time. And so you're seeing gradually we're really improving and driving email traffic. We've done a lot of optimizing of our signups over the last year, and then into this year saw a lot of adoption, particularly with our automated RSS emails. We introduced some new topics around the legislature. We're going to do some other email experiments, but we're really trying to focus on those products for, just again, increasing the number of people who are engaged with us in an ongoing way, as opposed to people who maybe just come from search or social. That's really great traffic, but what do we do with those people when they get to our site? We want to keep them, we want to retain them, we want to get to know them better, and email is a really great vehicle for us to get them to sign up. Once we have your email address, we can start an ongoing conversation with you, get to know you better, and hopefully introduce you to some of the other things that we're doing.